World Information HD channel. In the world of coin collecting, a simple 1-cent penny can be worth a fortune. Today, we're diving into the top 15 most valuable and rare USA Lincoln 1-cent pennies that could be hiding in your pocket change right now. Some of these coins are worth millions, and you might just own one without even knowing it. The year 1972 was a fascinating period in American history, a time of cultural change, political shifts, and economic uncertainty. But beyond the headlines and historic moments, tucked away in pockets, purses, and change jars, something remarkable was quietly circulating: the United States 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, this coin might look like just another everyday penny, small, copper-toned, and bearing the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln. But as seasoned collectors know, appearances can be deceiving. In fact, this humble 1-cent coin carries with it a story of precision, error, and rarity that makes it one of the most desirable pieces in American numismatic history. If you've ever held a penny from the early 1970s, you know the feel, the weight of copper, the smooth yet distinct rim, and the crisp strike that reveals every detail of Lincoln's face. But the 1972 no-mint mark variety hides something extraordinary, a visual anomaly that sets it apart from millions of others. And once you know what to look for, you might realize that a coin hiding in your change jar could be worth a small fortune. Let's first set the stage. In 1972, the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. The Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not stamp mint marks on coins at the time, handled a massive share of this production. With such large-scale manufacturing, it was inevitable that a few coins would emerge with something unusual, the kind of subtle difference that transforms an ordinary penny into a collector's dream. For the 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, that difference came in the form of doubling, specifically, a rare and dramatic doubled die obverse. Doubling occurs when the coin's design is accidentally impressed onto the die more than once, with each impression slightly misaligned. This causes certain parts of the design, like letters, numbers, and even Lincoln's profile, to appear doubled, almost as if the coin is wearing a faint shadow of itself. On the most famous 1972 double-die penny, this doubling is unmistakable. Look closely at the word Liberty, and you'll see thick, bold doubling in each letter. The motto "I in God We Trust" also displays heavy doubling, making it appear as if the words have been typed twice. Even the date, 1972, shows this dramatic effect. This isn't the kind of doubling that requires magnification or an expert's eye. It's bold enough that even casual collectors can spot it instantly. When news of this error spread in the coin collecting world, excitement erupted. Collectors rushed to search their change, combing through rolls of pennies from banks and grocery stores, hoping to find one of these rare treasures. While the Philadelphia Mint produced more than 2.9 billion Lincoln cents that year, only a small fraction carried this striking doubled die feature, and even fewer survived in pristine condition. Condition, as always, is everything. In coin grading, every scratch, nick, and spot of discoloration matters. A heavily circulated 1972 double-die penny might fetch a decent sum, but a coin that has been preserved in near-perfect condition, with sharp details, original luster, and minimal wear, can command truly staggering prices at auction. Imagine holding one in your hand, the rich, coppery tone still glowing like it did the day it left the mint, Lincoln's profile standing out in crisp relief, and the doubled lettering making the coin look almost three-dimensional. It's not just a penny anymore, it's a piece of history, a rare survivor of a production mishap that slipped past the mint's quality control. What's particularly fascinating about the 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is how it bridges the gap between everyday life and high-end collecting. This wasn't a special commemorative coin or a limited release. It was a workhorse of the American economy, meant to be spent on candy bars, newspapers, and bus fares. Yet today, in the right condition, it's valued like a fine piece of art. Over the decades, stories have emerged of lucky finders discovering these pennies in the most unexpected places. A man cleaning out his late father's desk finds one in a dusty coin tray. A teenager sorting through change from a garage sale spots the telltale doubling. In some cases, the discovery changes a person's view of coins forever. sparking a lifelong passion for numismatics. But beyond the thrill of the hunt, the 1972 double-die penny is a reminder of the human element in coin production. Despite all the machinery, precision, and oversight, mistakes happen, and sometimes those mistakes become legends. Collectors cherish these coins not only for their rarity and value but also for the story they tell about the imperfections that make each piece unique. It's worth noting that not all doubling is created equal. Many coins display something called machine doubling, where the coin shifts slightly during the striking process, creating a flat, shelf-like doubling that collectors generally consider far less valuable. The 1972 double die, however, is the real deal, strong, rounded doubling created at the die-making stage, making it a genuine mint variety and a true collectible. The coin market is driven by supply and demand, and in the case of the 1972 double die, the demand has remained consistently strong. Each time one comes up for sale in top condition, collectors compete fiercely, knowing that opportunities like this are rare. The price these coins command reflects not only their scarcity but also their place in the pantheon of famous American coin errors. As with all valuable coins, authentication is key. Counterfeits do exist, and some sellers have been known to pass off ordinary 1972 pennies with minor doubling as the famous variety. Serious collectors turn to trusted grading services, which examine coins under high magnification, verify their authenticity, and assign them a grade on the Sheldon scale, a system that ranges from 1 for heavily worn coins to 70 for flawless specimens. Over time, as more collectors seek out this coin, the number of available high-grade examples shrinks. Coins get lost, damaged, or held in private collections, never to re-enter the market. That scarcity is part of what keeps prices strong, and for those who own a 1972 no-mint mark double-die Lincoln cent in exceptional condition, it's a source of both pride and investment potential. So, how can you tell if you have one of these rare treasures? First, grab a 1972 penny with no mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Then, under good lighting or with a simple magnifying glass, look closely at the date and lettering on the front. The true double die will show thick, distinct doubling, not faint shadows or blurry edges, but bold, separate impressions. If you think you've found one, handle it with care. Avoid rubbing or cleaning the coin, as this can dramatically reduce its value. Place it in a protective holder, and consider having it professionally graded. Even if it's not in perfect condition, the thrill of owning a genuine piece of numismatic history is something every collector can appreciate. The 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is more than just a small piece of copper. It's a window into the world of coin production, a testament to the quirks of human craftsmanship, and a shining example of how something as ordinary as a penny can become extraordinary. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a casual enthusiast, the search for this coin is an adventure in itself, and for the lucky few who find one, the reward can be truly life-changing. And for those wondering just how valuable the best examples can be, well, a pristine, high-grade 1972 no-mint mark double-die Lincoln cent has sold for an astonishing $35,388. In the world of coin collecting, there are certain pieces that hold a special place in the hearts of both seasoned numismatists and everyday treasure hunters. Among them lies a humble coin that, at first glance, seems like nothing more than the common change we carry in our pockets, the 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. To the untrained eye, it's just a penny. To those who know its story, it's a tiny copper relic that could be worth an astonishing amount of money. Now, the United States of America has a long history of minting coins that have captured the imagination of collectors, and the Lincoln cent series is one of the most enduring. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin replaced the Indian head cent and instantly became a mainstay in American currency. Over the decades, slight design changes, minting errors, and rare variations have created a world where 1-cent pieces can sell for hundreds, thousands, and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. The year 1976 was a special time in U.S. history, the nation's bicentennial year, celebrating 200 years since the Declaration of Independence. While the quarter, half dollar, and dollar coins of 1976 proudly bore unique bicentennial designs. The Lincoln cent kept its familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. However, a certain type of 1976 cent, one with no mint mark at all, would become one of the rarest and most valuable of the era. Before we dive into the story of the 1976 no mint mark penny, it's worth understanding what a mint mark actually is. A mint mark is a small letter stamped onto a coin to indicate where it was made. In the 1970s, the U.S. had three main mints producing coins: Philadelphia, no mint mark for cents; Denver, D., and San Francisco, S. The absence of a mint mark on a Lincoln cent typically meant it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, but here's the catch. In some years, even Philadelphia coins have unique variations or production quirks that make them far more valuable than their mintage numbers would suggest. The standard 1976 penny was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, with a diameter of 19.05 millimeters and a weight of 3.11 grams. Tens of millions were produced, so finding one in your pocket change isn't exactly surprising. But when you're looking for a special 1976 no mint mark penny, you're hunting for something far more elusive: coins struck with exceptional quality, flawless surfaces, or subtle production differences that elevate them above the rest. Some of these valuable pieces are what collectors call condition rarities. In simple terms, while millions of coins may have been made, only a handful survive today in pristine, uncirculated condition. Over time, coins in circulation get scratched, dinged, worn, and tarnished. A 1976 penny fresh from the mint, untouched and with mirror-like luster, is incredibly hard to find today, and that's where the serious money comes in. But there's more to the 1976 no mint mark Lincoln cent's appeal than just condition. Some of these coins display sharp, well-defined details because they were struck using fresh dies, the metal stamps used to create the coin's design. In rare cases, certain 1976 cents also exhibit unusual die characteristics or minor errors, such as slightly doubled lettering, off-center strikes, or variations in the spacing of the date. To an average person, these might seem insignificant. To a collector, they can mean the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth thousands. Another factor that drives the value of the 1976 no mint mark penny is the nostalgia of the bicentennial year. Many Americans who lived through 1976 remember the parades, the fireworks, and the patriotic pride of the time. Owning a rare coin from that year feels like holding a piece of the nation's history. Combine that sentimental appeal with genuine rarity, and you have a recipe for sky-high prices at auction. Let's picture this. You're sorting through an old coffee can full of coins your grandparents left behind. Most of them are common: nickels, dimes, quarters, nothing unusual. But then, you spot a 1976 penny with no mint mark. You hold it up to the light. The details are sharp, the fields, the flat areas of the coin, are smooth and reflective, and the edges are crisp. You think nothing of it at first, until you learn that high-grade examples like this have been known to command astonishing amounts in the collector's market. The journey from spare change to collectible treasure is one of the most fascinating parts of numismatics. Many rare coins began their lives as everyday currency, used to buy newspapers, candy bars, or bus tickets. The only difference between those everyday coins and the ones worth a fortune is the simple fact that some were never spent. They were tucked away in drawers, coin albums, or safety deposit boxes, spared from the wear and tear of circulation. Decades later, those same coins emerge as gleaming survivors, prized by collectors for their beauty and rarity. It's important to understand that not every 1976 no mint mark penny will be valuable. In fact, the vast majority of them are worth just face value. The real money is in coins graded by professional services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, at the highest levels, typically mint state 67 or higher. These coins are so well preserved that even under magnification, they appear nearly flawless. If you're curious whether your 1976 penny might be valuable, start with the basics. Check for the absence of a mint mark under the date. Examine the coin's overall condition. Look for sharp details, no scratches, and brilliant luster. consider having it professionally graded if it appears pristine. Collectors will pay top dollar for coins that meet these criteria, especially if they come with authentication and a high grade. Over the years, certain examples of the 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln cent have stunned auction audiences, selling for amounts that make people rethink what's possible from a simple penny. The thrill of finding one of these coins is part of what keeps treasure hunters, metal detector enthusiasts, and everyday hobbyists searching through pocket change. It's a reminder that history, artistry, and value can hide in the smallest of places, even in the palm of your hand. Think about it. This penny has survived nearly half a century. It has witnessed the closing years of the Vietnam War, the rise of personal computers, the turn of the millennium, and countless other moments in American history. Yet despite its small size, it carries with it a story far larger than its face value suggests. Coin collecting is often described as the hobby of kings. But it's also the hobby of dreamers, those who look at the world not just for what it is, but for the hidden treasures it might hold. The 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is one such treasure, quietly waiting in old jars, forgotten piggy banks, and dusty estate sale boxes, ready to surprise whoever has the curiosity to look closely. And so, the next time you're handed change at a store, take a moment to glance at those pennies. You might just be holding an extraordinary piece of history, a coin that bridges the gap between the everyday and the exceptional. Because while most pennies will always be worth 1 cent, the rarest of the 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln cents have sold for an incredible $41,000. The penny. A small copper-colored coin that most of us toss into jars, glove compartments, or couch cushions without giving it much thought. But what if I told you that a single penny in your pocket right now could be the difference between an ordinary day and a life-changing discovery? Today, we're going to talk about one of the most intriguing coins in United States history, the 1980 D-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, and why collectors are willing to pay staggering amounts of money for it. At first glance, this coin doesn't look like anything special. It's got the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, facing right, with the word Liberty to his left and the date 1980 neatly placed to his right. And if you look closely, right beneath that date, you'll notice the tiny letter D. That's the mint mark. It tells us where the coin was struck, in this case, the Denver Mint. Now, you might be wondering, how can a penny from 1980 be worth more than a brand new car? After all, billions of pennies were minted that year. But like many treasures in the world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins, it all comes down to rarity, condition, and in some cases, a fascinating error in the manufacturing process. Let's start with the basics. In 1980, the U.S. Mint produced over 5 billion pennies. Most of these were made of a copper alloy, containing 95% copper and 5% zinc, which gave them that warm reddish-brown tone we all know. This was just before the penny underwent a major change in composition in 1982, when the mint switched to a primarily zinc core with a thin copper plating. That means the 1980 D penny still belongs to the era of solid copper coins, a detail that already makes it more desirable to collectors. But here's where things get interesting. Among those billions of coins, a tiny fraction left the Denver Mint in near-perfect, untouched condition. These coins weren't passed from hand to hand, rattled around in pockets, or scraped against other coins in a change jar. Instead, they were preserved, often straight from bank rolls or mint sets, their surfaces free from scratches, nicks, or fingerprints. In the world of coin grading, perfection is rare, and perfection commands a premium. Coin grading is a careful and precise process. A coin's condition is ranked on the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70. A grade of 70, known as mint state perfect, means the coin is flawless, with no visible imperfections even under 5x magnification. For a coin minted over 4 decades ago, surviving in such pristine condition is nothing short of miraculous. And then there's the possibility of mint errors. Mint errors are like the celebrity gossip of the coin world. Everyone loves to talk about them. Sometimes during the striking process, a coin might be misaligned, double-struck, or struck with a worn-out die. These errors can make an ordinary penny suddenly extraordinary. Some 1980 pennies have been found with off-center strikes, doubled dies, or variations in the shape and placement of the mint mark. While most of these errors are subtle, for collectors, even the smallest anomaly can send the value skyrocketing. But here's the thing: finding one of these gems isn't as easy as checking the change in your wallet. It takes patience, sharp eyes, and sometimes a little bit of luck. Many coin hunters scour rolls of pennies from banks, sifting through thousands of coins in search of that one shining prize. Others visit estate sales, flea markets, or coin shows, hoping to stumble upon a hidden treasure that the seller has overlooked. To understand why the 1980 penny can be so valuable, you have to understand the collector's mindset. For serious numismatists, it's not just about owning a coin, it's about owning a piece of history. This penny was minted during a unique time in America's economy. Inflation was high, interest rates were climbing, and the country was on the brink of significant political changes. Coins from this era carry with them the story of a nation in transition. There's also the allure of the Denver Mint itself. The D Mint mark coins have always held a special place in the hearts of collectors. Established in 1906, the Denver Mint quickly became one of the most important coin-producing facilities in the country. Coins from Denver are known for their sharp strikes and clean details, making them ideal for collectors who prize crisp, well-defined designs. But perhaps the most important factor of all is scarcity in top condition. Most 1980 pennies have been in circulation for decades, enduring the wear and tear of daily use. The small handful that survived untouched are the ones that draw the big bids at auctions. When these coins appear on the market, often slabbed and graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, they can ignite fierce bidding wars among collectors. It's worth noting that even a circulated 1980 penny in decent shape is worth holding onto if you enjoy coin collecting. While it might not fetch thousands, it's still a great reminder of the pre-1982 copper composition era. And who knows? If it has an error or grades higher than you expect, you could be in for a pleasant surprise. Over the years, stories have emerged of everyday people finding valuable 1980 pennies in the most unexpected places. One collector discovered a mint-state example tucked away in an old bank envelope his grandmother had saved for decades. Another coin hunter found a rare error version at the bottom of a jar in his garage. These tales fuel the excitement for coin searchers everywhere, proving that treasures can still be found in pocket change. So, how do you know if you have one of these valuable coins? Start by examining the coin closely under good lighting. Look for that D mint mark under the date, and check for any unusual features, like doubled lettering, die cracks, or off-center strikes. Then, assess the condition. Is the coin bright and shiny, with sharp details and no scratches? Or is it dull, worn, and nicked from years of circulation? If you think you've got something special, it's worth sending it to a professional grading service. Professional grading not only verifies the authenticity and condition of your coin, but it also encapsulates it in a protective case, preserving its state for years to come. Collectors are far more willing to pay top dollar for a coin that has been graded and certified by a trusted authority. The coin market can be unpredictable, but one thing is certain: rare, high-grade coins will always attract attention. And with the 1980 penny, the demand shows no signs of fading. In fact, as more of these coins disappear into private collections, the scarcity only increases, driving up both the desirability and the price. Imagine holding in your hand a penny that has survived over 40 years without a single blemish, a coin that passed through the rigorous minting process without error, and a coin that has caught the attention of some of the most passionate collectors in the world. It's more than just money, it's history, art, and craftsmanship combined into a single copper disc, and that's why, when the right 1980 penny comes up for sale, graded at the top of the scale, with flawless surfaces and perfect luster, it can command an astounding price. We're not talking about a few $100s, or even a few thousand. One such coin, in truly exceptional condition, once sold for the jaw-dropping sum of $34,959. So the next time you find a penny in your pocket, don't be so quick to toss it aside. That little copper coin could be worth more than you ever imagined. And who knows? Maybe one day, you'll be the lucky one holding a 1980 penny that changes your life forever. In the world of coin collecting, some stories are so surprising that they completely change the way you look at the change in your pocket. Imagine holding something so small and ordinary that you could easily overlook it, yet in reality, it's a treasure that could change your life. That is the fascinating story of the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that might appear dull, dirty, and worthless at first glance, yet has stunned collectors and investors with its rarity, history, and staggering value. Every day, millions of pennies pass through people's hands without a second thought. They roll across counters, clink inside jars, and gather dust in kitchen drawers. But among them, hidden like a secret, are a few extraordinary coins whose details make them worth far more than just a cent. And if you think such coins can only be found in museums or wealthy collections, think again. Some have been discovered in pocket change, flea markets, and even inside old coin jars stored away for decades. The story begins in 1982, a year that marked one of the most significant changes in United States coinage history. For decades, Lincoln cents had been made primarily from a copper alloy. But in the early 1980s, rising copper prices meant that the value of the metal inside each penny was approaching, and in some cases exceeding, its face value. The U.S. Mint knew they had to act, and so a major transition began. In 1982, the Mint made a decision that would leave a permanent mark on coin collecting history. They switched the penny's composition from 95% copper to a much cheaper 97.5% zinc core with a thin copper plating. This switch saved the government millions of dollars, but it also created one of the most fascinating transition years in modern coinage. During this single year, both copper and zinc pennies were produced, along with multiple design varieties. There were small date versions, large date versions, and pennies from different mint locations. But among these, the no-mint mark 1982 penny from the Philadelphia Mint would go on to become a legend. At first glance, a 1982 no-mint mark penny looks like any other cent from the era. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile faces right on the obverse, with the words, "In God We Trust," arching above him, "Liberty," to his left, and the date, 1982, to his right. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands in the center, flanked by the words, "United States of America," and "E Pluribus Unum," above, and the denomination, 1 cent, below. The no-mint mark designation means there is no small letter under the date to indicate where it was made. Philadelphia pennies of this era were typically struck without 1.so. If it's just a regular Philadelphia penny, what makes this particular coin so special? The answer lies in its subtle but extremely rare combination of factors. You see, because 1982 was a transitional year, coins were struck in both copper and zinc compositions. The copper version weighs about 3.11 grams, while the zinc version is noticeably lighter at 2.5 grams. Collectors soon discovered that certain date and mint mark combinations were much harder to find than others, and the 1982 no-mint mark small date copper cent became one of the most elusive of them all. This is where the real excitement begins. Many people who owned a 1982 penny never noticed whether it was small date or large date, copper or zinc. But experts and collectors began to realize that certain varieties were surfacing so rarely that they commanded massive prices at auction. The rarest finds were often in uncirculated or near-perfect condition, as circulation tends to dull the details and reduce value. For the small date copper 1982 no-mint mark penny, condition is everything. A well-worn example might be worth a few dollars to a collector simply because of its scarcity. But an uncirculated coin, struck sharply with a beautiful, original red copper luster, could sell for thousands. And if that coin happens to grade at the highest levels on the professional grading scale, you're talking about life-changing money. One of the most thrilling aspects of this story is that the coin is still out there. Unlike older rarities from the 1800s, this is a relatively modern coin. People find them in inherited collections, inside old coin jars from their parents' or grandparents' houses, and even tucked away in rolls of pennies purchased from banks. The possibility that an ordinary person could stumble upon one without even realizing it fuels the dream of collectors everywhere. but identifying the coin correctly requires attention to detail. The difference between a small date and large date can be subtle to an untrained eye. On the small date version, the top of the number 8 sits nearly level with the top of the 1 and 2 in the date, and the 2 has a delicate, slightly curved tail. On the large date, the numbers look bolder, and the 8 is noticeably higher. Even more critical is determining the composition. You can do this by weighing the coin on a precise digital scale. Copper versions weigh about 3.11 grams, while zinc versions are lighter at around 2.5 grams. Collectors have been fascinated for decades by how such small details can make such a huge difference in value. A common 1982 penny is still just 1 cent, maybe a few cents if it's in great condition. But change the composition, date, style, and preserve it in perfect mint state, and suddenly you have a coin worth more than some used cars, or even more than many people's yearly salaries. Auction records have shown that serious collectors are willing to pay astonishing amounts for these coins. The reason? True rarity combined with historical significance. The 1982 transitional cents represent a turning point in American coinage, the moment when the iconic Lincoln penny shifted from solid copper to a cheaper, plated version. And within that transition, the no-mint mark small date copper penny stands as a prized symbol of a fleeting moment in mint history. The Philadelphia Mint did not produce small date copper pennies in large quantities in 1982, making them incredibly difficult to find in pristine condition. Over the years, many entered circulation and suffered the wear and tear of daily transactions. Others were tossed into coin jars and forgotten. Very few survived in the flawless condition required to reach the highest price levels. When one of these coins in gem mint state appears at a major auction, it attracts intense bidding wars. Experienced numismatists, passionate hobbyists, and even wealthy investors recognize the opportunity. After all, rare coins are not only collectible, they can also serve as tangible assets that appreciate in value over time. Imagine standing in an auction room or watching online as the bidding climbs higher and higher. The tension builds, the bids come faster, and in a matter of moments, what started as a humble penny becomes the center of a fierce competition between determined collectors. And when the hammer finally falls, the final price is met with gasps of amazement from everyone watching. For everyday people, the lesson here is clear: never underestimate the change in your pocket. That jar of pennies in the back of your closet might hold more than just loose change. With a careful eye, a bit of research, and perhaps a good digital scale, you could be the next person to uncover a rare treasure hiding in plain sight. This is why coin collecting is such a beloved hobby for millions around the world. It combines history, art, and the thrill of the hunt into one endlessly fascinating pursuit. Every coin has a story, and sometimes that story ends with a jaw-dropping moment when you realize you've been holding something worth a fortune. The 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, especially the elusive small-date copper variety, remains one of the most talked-about modern rarities in U.S. coinage. Its blend of historical importance, scarcity, and the tantalizing possibility of discovery makes it irresistible to collectors. And for those lucky enough to own one in flawless condition, the financial reward can be truly extraordinary. In fact, one such coin in spectacular mint state condition once sold for an amount that would leave most people speechless. That unassuming 1-cent piece, struck over 4 decades ago, fetched a staggering $45,838. The year was 1983, a time when Michael Jackson's Thriller ruled the music charts, movie theaters buzzed with Return of the Jedi, and America was still finding its footing after a deep recession. Yet while pop culture and politics were grabbing headlines, something small, almost microscopic in the grand scheme of history, quietly rolled off the presses at the Denver Mint. A small copper-colored disc. A single cent. A penny. At first glance, the 1983 Lincoln penny looked completely ordinary. You could have found it rattling in your pocket change, sitting at the bottom of a coin jar, or clinking into a soda machine without a second thought. But what most people didn't realize then, and what far too many still don't realize now, is that certain examples of this penny are worth more than many brand new cars today. Now, you might be thinking, how could a 1-cent coin from the early 1980s possibly carry such value? After all, billions of pennies are minted each year. And the 1983 D was no exception. It was struck in massive numbers at the Denver facility, its tiny D mint mark tucked neatly beneath the date on the obverse, right under Abraham Lincoln's steadfast profile. But as coin collectors know all too well, it's not just age that makes a coin valuable. It's a cocktail of factors: rarity, condition, minting errors, and even unexpected historical quirks. And in the case of the 1983 D penny, one particular feature changed everything: the material it was made from. To understand why, we need to rewind the clock 1 year. In 1982, the United States Mint made a major change in the composition of its pennies. Up until that point, Lincoln cents had been made mostly of copper, 95% copper to be exact, with a small amount of zinc. But rising copper prices meant that each penny was starting to cost more than 1 cent to make. So, in mid-1982, the mint switched to a cheaper plan, minting pennies from zinc with a thin copper plating. The new coins were about the same weight, 2.5 grams, compared to the older copper coins, which weighed 3.11 grams. To the average person, the change was invisible. But to numismatists, it was monumental. Here's where the 1983 D gets interesting. In theory, all 1983 pennies, whether struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, were supposed to be made from the new zinc composition. However, every once in a while, the mint's massive machinery slips. Somehow, in rare cases, a leftover copper planchet from 1982 found its way into the presses in 1983. And when that happened, you suddenly had a coin that shouldn't exist. One such accident happened at the Denver Mint. And the result? The rare and highly sought after 1983 D copper penny. Now, let's pause here for a second, because this is where things get fascinating. Imagine the sheer scale of the mint's operations: thousands of planchets feeding into presses every minute, hundreds of millions of coins struck every year. And yet, somewhere in that storm of steel, a few older copper blanks somehow escaped notice and slipped into the production line. No alarm bells, no flashing red lights, just business as usual. Those rare mistakes were sent out into circulation, indistinguishable from their zinc counterparts, until decades later, when careful collectors started weighing them. The difference is tiny, just over half a gram. But to a trained eye, and with a sensitive enough scale, the truth reveals itself. The copper penny weighs 3.11 grams. The zinc penny? Only 2.5 grams. That fraction of a gram is the key to unlocking a small fortune. Now here's the kicker. While Philadelphia also produced some copper 1983 pennies in error, the Denver minted version is far, far harder to find. Why? Because the Denver Mint's production runs were better controlled that year, meaning fewer stray copper planchets survived the transition. And this scarcity, combined with collector demand, has sent values soaring for top-quality examples. But rarity alone doesn't set the price. Condition matters immensely. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC are evaluated on a meticulous scale from PUR, P1, to mint state, MS70. The best of the best, bright, lustrous coins with sharp strikes and no signs of wear, are the ones that make headlines at auctions. Take a moment to picture it. You're sifting through a jar of change, maybe out of boredom, maybe because you've heard stories like this before. Your fingers brush against a 1983 penny with a little D beneath the date. You toss it on a scale and weight 3.11 grams. You take it to a dealer, who confirms it's copper, authentic, and in near-perfect condition. Suddenly, this tiny disc of metal you nearly spent on a pack of gum becomes one of the most valuable coins you've ever touched. That thrill, that rush of discovery, is exactly why coin hunting remains so popular today. Every time you get change back at a grocery store or dig into an old coin jar, you're stepping into a treasure hunt where the prize could be hiding in plain sight. And the beauty of the 1983 D copper penny is that it's not locked away in museums or inaccessible to everyday people. It's still out there. In drawers. In forgotten piggy banks. In the change you get from a vending machine. It's a modern reminder that not all treasures are buried deep underground, some are jingling right in your pocket. But before you start tearing through every penny you can find, here are a few tips if you're looking for one yourself. Always check the weight. Use a digital scale that measures in grams to 2 decimal places. Any 1983D penny weighing 3.11 grams is a prime candidate for copper. Inspect the coin's condition. Higher grades mean higher value. Even a rare coin can be worth significantly less if it's scratched, bent, or corroded. Consider professional grading. If you think you've found one, sending it to PCGS or NGC for authentication can solidify its value and make it more attractive to buyers. Beware of altered coins. Some people try to plate zinc pennies or file them to mimic the copper weight. That's why professional verification is key. Stories have emerged of people finding these rare pennies in the most unexpected places: flea market bins, inherited coin jars, even taped into old scrapbooks as souvenirs from the 1980s. And every time one surfaces, it fuels a wave of renewed interest among collectors. In fact, the demand for high-grade 1983D copper pennies has only grown over the years. With so few in existence, and more being snapped up by serious collectors, the chances of stumbling upon one shrink each day. That scarcity drives prices higher, creating a feedback loop where the coin becomes not just a numismatic prize, but an investment asset. When you hold one in your hand, you're not just holding a piece of metal, you're holding a mistake that slipped through the cracks of one of the most controlled manufacturing environments in the world. You're holding a whisper from history, a reminder that even in a system designed for perfection, the unexpected can still happen. So, the next time you find yourself with a handful of change, don't ignore the pennies. Don't assume they're all worthless. Because one of them, just maybe, could be the 1983D copper penny. And if it's in pristine condition? You might just be holding something valued at $43,477. Imagine holding in your hand a single coin, small, copper-colored, and seemingly ordinary. At first glance, it looks like just another penny, the kind you might find lying on the sidewalk or buried at the bottom of your pocket change jar. But what if I told you that one of these small coins, minted in the United States in 1993 at the Denver Mint, could be worth far more than its humble 1-cent face value? In fact, this tiny piece of metal could be hiding an incredible story of rarity, minting history, and collector demand. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1993D Lincoln 1-cent penny, its origins, its unique qualities, how to spot one in exceptional condition, and why collectors are willing to pay top dollar for it. To truly appreciate the value of a 1993D Lincoln cent, we have to take a step back and look at the history of the Lincoln penny itself. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin replaced the Indian head cent and instantly became a favorite among Americans. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the coin proudly displays the iconic portrait of Lincoln, while the reverse initially featured a pair of wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent. In 1959, the reverse design changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial, and in 1982, a significant change was made to the coin's composition, switching from mostly copper to a copper-plated zinc core. This modern composition would continue into the 1990s, including the year 1993. The D Mint mark on a penny means it was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the primary coin-producing facilities of the United States Mint. The Denver Mint, established in 1906, has produced billions of coins over the decades, and in 1993 it struck millions of Lincoln cents for everyday circulation. But here's the thing, not all coins are created equal. Even when millions of coins are produced, certain factors, like production quality, mint errors, or unusually well-preserved condition, can make a particular example stand out and become highly sought after by collectors. So, what's so special about the 1993D Lincoln cent? To the casual observer, it might look identical to any penny from the early 1990s. But numismatists, people who study and collect coins, know that this date and mint mark combination has certain qualities that make it worth a closer look. One of those factors is the demand for modern Lincoln cents in pristine condition. While earlier pennies from the early 20th century are valued for their age and scarcity, more recent coins can become valuable when they are in extremely high grades, meaning they look almost exactly as they did when they left the mint, with no wear, scratches, or discoloration. In the coin collecting world, coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin showing no flaws even under magnification. A 1993 D Lincoln cent that has been graded at the highest levels, especially if it has deep red color and full original mint luster, is incredibly hard to find because most coins from that year went directly into circulation and were used for everyday transactions. Think about it. How many pennies from the 1990s do you still have in untouched, perfect condition? That's what makes the few surviving examples so special. Another aspect to consider is that the minting process itself can sometimes produce small but fascinating errors. These errors, such as double dies, off-center strikes, or coins struck on the wrong planchet, can dramatically increase the value of a coin. While the 1993 D cent isn't widely known for a specific error type, certain examples have surfaced with minor variations or striking anomalies that intrigue collectors. When combined with exceptional condition, these unique traits can elevate a coin from common to extraordinary. Let's talk about what makes a high-value 1993 D penny stand out visually. The color of the coin is one of the most important factors in grading modern copper-plated zinc cents. Collectors categorize Lincoln cents into 3 general color designations: brown, red-brown, and red. A red designation means the coin still retains at least 95% of its original bright copper color, just as it appeared when freshly struck. Achieving and maintaining that brilliant red hue over 3 decades is rare, because copper is highly reactive and tends to darken over time, especially when exposed to air, moisture, and handling. Next, we look at luster, the way light reflects across the surface of the coin. A high-grade 1993 D cent will have a radiant, almost satiny glow, free of any dullness or haze. This luster is a direct result of the minting process, where the pressure of the dies leaves tiny, microscopic flow lines in the metal. Once the coin is handled, even slightly, those delicate lines can be disrupted, diminishing the luster. Strike quality is also key. A well-struck coin will have sharp details in Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat, as well as crisp lettering and a clear date and mint mark. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial should display visible columns all the way to the statue of Lincoln inside, with no weakness in the design. The best examples look almost three-dimensional, with every detail standing out as if it were freshly engraved. Now, while it's possible to stumble upon a valuable 1993 D penny and change, the reality is that most of the coins worth serious money have been preserved carefully since the day they were minted. These may have come from original mint sets or proof sets, or they may have been pulled aside by collectors who recognized their quality early on. The condition of the coin is everything. Even a tiny nick, spot, or scratch can mean the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth thousands. So how do collectors acquire such rare gems? Many turn to professional coin dealers, auctions, or reputable online marketplaces specializing in certified coins. Certification from a trusted grading service, such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, is critical. These organizations evaluate coins under strict conditions, assign an official grade, and encapsulate them in tamper-evident holders. This not only guarantees authenticity but also gives buyers confidence in the coin's quality. Interestingly, demand for high-grade modern Lincoln cents has been growing over the past couple of decades. As older, perfect examples get locked away in private collections, the number of available coins on the open market shrinks, driving prices higher. This trend is not limited to early Lincoln wheat cents from the 1900s. Even more recent memorial reverse coins, like the 1993 D, have surged in value when they meet the right conditions of rarity and quality. What makes this particular date so appealing to collectors is the perfect blend of accessibility and exclusivity. On one hand, almost everyone remembers handling pennies from the 1990s, so there's a nostalgic connection. On the other hand, finding one in pristine, untouched condition is like finding a needle in a haystack. That combination of personal familiarity and genuine rarity creates a strong emotional and financial appeal. Imagine the thrill of opening an old coin jar, or looking through a collection you inherited from a relative, and spotting a 1993 D penny that looks absolutely flawless. At first, you might think, it's just a penny. But under the right circumstances, that single coin could be a gateway into the fascinating world of numismatics, and a ticket to a surprisingly high payday. Collectors often advise beginners to start by carefully examining the pennies they already have. Even if you don't find a rare mint error or a top-graded example, the process of learning to spot quality coins builds valuable knowledge. Over time, you begin to notice subtle differences. The way a perfectly struck coin catches the light, the sharpness of the details, the depth of the color. And every now and then, you might come across something truly exceptional. This is the magic of coin collecting, the idea that a piece of everyday currency, worth just a cent in the eyes of most people, can hold a hidden story and an unexpected value. It's a reminder that history, art, and craftsmanship can be found in even the smallest of objects, and that sometimes, treasure hides in plain sight. The 1993 D Lincoln 1-cent penny might not be the rarest coin in American history, but in the right condition, it represents the pinnacle of modern minting and preservation. It is a testament to how quality, rarity, and collector demand can transform something ordinary into something extraordinary. And for the few examples that have survived in nearly perfect condition, flawless surfaces, full original red luster, and impeccable strike, the reward can be astonishing. In fact, one such penny has been known to sell for as much as $33,498. If you've ever emptied your pocket change and thought, it's just a penny, what could it possibly be worth? Well, you might want to sit down for this one. Because today, we're about to uncover the story of a humble little coin that has turned ordinary people into the luckiest treasure hunters on earth. The 1999 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, this coin looks like every other penny you've ever seen in your lifetime. Same copper-plated surface. Same image of Abraham Lincoln on the front, staring off in quiet dignity. Same memorial building on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, if you're holding the earlier design, of course. But beneath that familiar appearance lies a story of rarity, minting quirks, and collector obsession that can turn a single cent into something worth more than most people's monthly salary, and in some cases, more than an entire year's income. The year 1999 was a turning point in U.S. coinage. It was the final year before America's wildly popular 50-state quarters program began stealing all the attention from the penny. It was also a year when the U.S. Mint was running at full throttle, producing billions upon billions of coins to keep up with the economy. And when you're producing coins at that scale, mistakes are bound to happen. That's where the magic of our story begins. When we talk about a no-mint mark penny, we're not just talking about the fact that the coin lacks a little letter under the date. For those new to collecting, here's what that letter means. Pennies struck in Philadelphia typically carry no mint mark at all, while those made in Denver are stamped with a tiny D, and those from San Francisco get an S, usually reserved for proof coins. But in some rare situations, a coin that was supposed to have a mint mark simply doesn't. Whether due to a minting oversight, a damaged die, or a striking anomaly, that missing mark becomes the defining feature. And in the case of certain 1999 Lincoln pennies, it has made them incredibly desirable to collectors worldwide. Imagine this: billions of pennies leave the mint, and they all look the same, except for a microscopic percentage that's different. Those few slip into circulation unnoticed, rattling around in jars, vending machines, and wallets for decades, until one sharp-eyed person spots the oddity. That's when the hunt begins. Now, here's what makes 1999 so intriguing. In this year, the minting process was supposed to be almost flawless. Technology had improved, quality checks were stricter, and the mint was trying to maintain a spotless reputation going into the new millennium. That's why any minting anomaly from this year instantly sets off collector excitement. It wasn't supposed to happen. A genuine 1999 no-mint mark Lincoln penny stands out not just because of the missing mark, but because the rest of the details are crisp and clear. The lettering should be sharp, Lincoln's features well-defined, and the surface luster intact if the coin has been preserved well. And that's where condition, or grade, as collectors call it, plays a massive role in determining value. A coin pulled straight from the mint and stored carefully in protective casing can retain what's called mint state condition, meaning it looks virtually untouched. Under a magnifying glass, the fields, the flat parts, will be smooth and gleaming, with no scratches or wear marks. These are the coins that command the highest prices, the ones serious collectors will bid fiercely for at auctions. But here's the kicker: many of these rare 1999 pennies were found in everyday circulation. That means they've lived a hard life, bouncing around with other coins, sliding through cash registers, and getting handled thousands of times. Even so, if one turns up in decent shape, it can still fetch a shockingly high price. Let's talk about why collectors care so much about something as tiny as a missing mint mark. The world of numismatics, that's the fancy word for coin collecting, runs on rarity, condition, and historical significance. A mint era combines all three in a fascinating way: rarity, because only a handful exists compared to billions of standard coins; condition, because a rare coin in top shape is a unicorn; historical significance, because it tells a story about the year, the minting process, and sometimes even the people working at the mint. And if you're thinking, surely someone at the mint noticed and fixed it right away? Well, yes and no. The US Mint operates with enormous precision, but it's a machine-heavy process. Dies wear out, tiny defects go unnoticed, and when production is running in the billions, a small percentage of flawed coins is inevitable. But by the time anyone notices, those coins are already scattered across the country. The thrill for collectors isn't just owning the coin, it's the chase. People search through bags of pennies from banks, estate sales, and even gas station tills. Others rely on luck, finding one in their change after buying a coffee. And then, there are those unforgettable stories of someone who discovers a rare penny in an old jar that's been sitting in the attic for 30 years. So, how do you know if you've got one? Here's where you need to look closely. Flip the coin over and check under the date. If you see no mint mark at all, and you're holding a 1999 Lincoln penny, you might have stumbled onto something extraordinary. Of course, not every no mint mark penny from this year is valuable. Philadelphia minted pennies normally don't have a mint mark. The trick is identifying the specific error type, which often requires the trained eye of a coin expert or professional grading service. That's why authentication is key. If you believe you have a 1999 no mint mark penny with unusual characteristics, it's worth getting it graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. They'll confirm whether it's the rare variety that collectors are hunting for, and they'll assign it a grade that can dramatically influence its market value. Now, let's dive into the emotional side of this. The reason coins like this capture the public imagination is that they break the rules of what we think value means. A penny is worth 1 cent, except when it isn't. That contradiction sparks curiosity, excitement, and even a sense of wonder. It's the ultimate reminder that treasure can be hiding in plain sight. Over the years, the rare 1999 no mint mark Lincoln penny has appeared at auctions, sometimes starting at modest bids and quickly climbing as determined collectors push the price higher. The bidding wars can be intense, with each participant driven by the knowledge that coins of this caliber don't appear on the market often. And when the final hammer falls, the winning bid is often enough to make headlines, because yes, a coin you could have picked up in change for a gumball can be worth thousands. It's the kind of story news anchors love, coin dealers celebrate, and casual collectors dream about. For some, owning a coin like this is about bragging rights, a centerpiece for their collection. For others, it's a tangible link to history, a snapshot of American minting in a transitional year. And for the luckiest few, it's a windfall, a once-in-a-lifetime find that turns spare change into serious money. If you take away one lesson from this, let it be this: never underestimate the coins in your pocket. Check your change. Look closely at the details. Because while most pennies will spend their lives being spent, a select few will make someone's day, or year, in a way no ordinary coin ever could. So, next time you're handed a handful of coins at the grocery store or find an old coffee can full of pennies in the basement, don't dismiss them as worthless clutter. You might just be holding a tiny copper key to a small fortune. And speaking of fortunes, let's get to the part you've been waiting for: the value. In the best preserved condition, a genuine, high-grade example of the rare 1999 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny has been known to sell for as much as $29,266. In the vast and fascinating world of coin collecting, there are certain coins that, at first glance, seem far too common to be worth anything beyond their face value. Most people handle them every single day, toss them in change jars, or let them sit forgotten at the bottom of drawers. But seasoned numismatists, those who know the intricate details of coins, understand that appearances can be deceiving. And sometimes, the smallest, most ordinary coin can carry an extraordinary story and an extraordinary value. Today, we are diving deep into the mystery, beauty, and hidden value of a coin you might have handled without giving it a second thought: the 2020 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Yes, a penny minted just a few short years ago, still circulating in the pockets and purses of everyday Americans, can be worth far, far more than 1 cent if you know what to look for. And by the end of this video, you'll know why this particular penny has collectors buzzing, and how one such coin fetched a staggering price at auction. Let's begin with a little history. The Lincoln penny, officially called the Lincoln cent, first appeared in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait, breaking from the tradition of symbolic figures like Lady Liberty. Over the decades, the coin has undergone design changes, shifting from the original wheat reverse to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959, and then to the Union Shield reverse in 2010. But the obverse, Lincoln's dignified profile, remains largely the same, a timeless reminder of one of America's greatest presidents. The 2020 penny belongs to the Union Shield series, which features a modern, bold design, a single horizontal scroll across a shield, inscribed with 1 cent, symbolizing the unity of the United States. Above it, the words, E pluribus unum, proudly proclaim the nation's motto. Out of many, one. On the obverse, Lincoln's bust still faces right, framed by the inscriptions, Liberty, and the year 2020, along with the national motto, In God We Trust. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. In coin collecting, the presence or absence of a mint mark can make a world of difference. Mint marks indicate where a coin was produced: Philadelphia P, Denver D, or San Francisco S for proof coins. But for decades, pennies minted in Philadelphia bore no mint mark at all. The absence of a mint mark means the coin originated from the Philadelphia Mint. So when we talk about the 2020 no mint mark Lincoln penny, we're referring to those struck in Philadelphia. But why would such a common coin be worth more than face value? After all, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions, no billions, of pennies in 2020. The key lies in the subtle details: striking errors, die varieties, and condition. These factors can turn an otherwise ordinary penny into a collector's treasure point. One of the most sought-after varieties in the 2020 no-mint mark penny is the doubled die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin is engraved twice, slightly out of alignment, creating a doubled image on certain parts of the design. On 2020 pennies, this doubling might appear on the inscriptions, Liberty, or In God We Trust, or even in the fine lines of Lincoln's hair. Under magnification, the effect is striking, like seeing a ghost image layered over the original. Collectors love these errors because they are not supposed to happen, and they offer a tangible connection to the minting process itself. Another valuable error to look for is the off-center strike, where the coin is not properly aligned in the press, causing part of the design to be missing. Depending on the degree of misalignment, such coins can fetch impressive prices. A 10% off-center strike is noticeable but still retains most of the design, while a 50% off-center strike creates a dramatic half-blank, half-struck coin, an eye-catching rarity. Die cracks and cuts are also intriguing to collectors. These occur when the die used to strike coins becomes damaged or worn. A die crack may leave a raised line across the coin's surface, while a cud, caused by a piece of the die breaking away, results in a blob-like raised area where part of the design is missing. These imperfections, far from lowering a coin's value, actually enhance it for collectors seeking unusual pieces. Of course, condition plays a massive role in determining a coin's worth. Coins are graded on a scale from poor P1 to perfect mint state MS70. For modern coins like the 2020 penny, only the most pristine examples, those with full original luster, no scratches, and sharp details, command the highest prices. Even a minor flaw, like a tiny contact mark, can drop a coin's grade and value significantly. So, how does one even find such a coin? The answer is both simple and thrilling: check your change. Every day, millions of pennies pass through hands, registers, and coin rolls. By carefully examining the pennies you receive in change or by searching through bank rolls, you could stumble upon a gem. All you need is a keen eye, patience, and perhaps a basic magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to spot errors and doubling. The story of one remarkable 2020 no-mint mark penny illustrates the potential payoff of this hobby. This particular coin appeared perfectly ordinary to the untrained eye, but under close inspection, it revealed a spectacular double die error on the obverse, with crisp, distinct doubling on Liberty and In God We Trust. It was also in an exceptional state of preservation, graded by a professional service as mint state 69 red, just 1 point shy of perfection. Word spread quickly among collectors, and the coin eventually made its way to a prestigious auction. Bidders recognized the rarity and quality, and a fierce bidding war erupted. By the time the final gavel fell, the humble penny had sold for a price that would make anyone rethink the value of their loose change. Now, you might be wondering, how can you tell if you have something similar? Here are a few tips for identifying valuable 2020 no-mint mark pennies. Look closely at all inscriptions for signs of doubling. Examine Lincoln's hair and the Union shield for unusual lines or distortions. Check the edges for misalignment or signs of off-center striking. Inspect for raised lines or blobs that could indicate die cracks or cuts. Always handle coins carefully by the edges to avoid damaging them. It's worth noting that while billions of 2020 pennies exist, only a fraction will have the kinds of errors or conditions that command big money. That's why coin roll hunting and careful examination are essential. The thrill of discovery, finding that one coin among thousands, is part of what makes numismatics so addictive. Coin collecting is not just about money, though. Each coin tells a story. The 2020 penny, minted during a tumultuous year marked by a global pandemic and economic uncertainty, serves as a tiny historical artifact. Future generations may look back at coins from this period and see more than metal. They'll see a tangible reminder of the era. For collectors, owning a flawless or error coin from 2020 isn't just about rarity. It's about preserving a piece of history. And remember, the condition of a coin can be preserved or destroyed depending on how you store it. If you think you've found something special, place it in a protective holder immediately. Avoid cleaning coins, as this can damage the surface and drastically reduce their value. Instead, let the natural patina and mint luster speak for themselves. Now, we come to the part you've been waiting for, the value. While most 2020 no-mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, a select few, thanks to extraordinary preservation and rare minting errors, can fetch truly jaw-dropping sums. And one such coin, the star of today's story, sold for an incredible $9,266.